back to another edition of Inside BBI with John and Eric. I'm John McDevitt, and with me, of course, senior editor of Big Blue Interactive, Mr. Eric Kennedy. Eric, I love the background. You're not on vacation anymore. You're back. I love the logo and the hat. Here we are. We're about to preview another game.
Yay.
I don't know if we have hope. We just have honesty.
Yeah, I don't know if you got the clip I sent you, if we could use it, but I was reminded of the movie Stripes in the beginning, where the main character says, "And then depression set in." So
I will include that in here. I think
that's where the fan base is right now, because it's kind of noticeable at BBI right now that the Big Blue Interactive. Please come and visit us. It's kind of you get. Let's just say you can tell the enthusiasm level is it's not good, especially given the fact that we just started the month of October. It's not good. I was hoping we'd go to at least Halloween this year, but we didn't. So that's where we're at.
Yeah, we had our first real, because it was after games have already started, so college games, because we did some stuff in the summer, talking about it with Cy. We did our first let's take a look at the quarterback crop for next year. And that was still September. So Here we are. We are in October.
So because you said that you were going to you had $150 worth of beer that your wife got. We stopped at Aldi the other day, picked up Independence Harbor Amber Ale, which I thought for sure was going to be brewed in Boston. But when I look at the bottle, it's Rochester, New York, which is close to where I'm from, in the Utica area. So I was like, yay, upstate New York, even though Rochester's a dump now. But
I've got Edmund's Oast Brew. They're locally here in Charleston. Comfy Armchair Brown Ale. So that's what we're going with today. And that's what we need. And I'm sure I'm going to have 1, 2, or 5 during Sunday's game just to get through. So here we are. We're looking in, and right away, we're going to preview a game, but we're now looking at, we've got some injuries to talk about that probably will affect maybe not the outcome. That might have already been a signed, sealed, delivered kind of situation, but it might make the outcome be a little bit different than it was originally going to be.
Well, injuries on both sides. I mean, both teams.
True.
Seattle's kind of beat up. Doesn't seem to be affecting them too much, but they're 3-1. They're coming off a loss against a very interesting game, a good game, an entertaining game against Detroit. And the teams that they've beat are not impressive. So, you could say, well, the Giants have a chance in this. But I haven't watched a ton of them, but the little that I have, I mean, I've always kind of been, I know they have a new coaching staff, both head coach, defensive coordinator coming over from Baltimore, and then their coordinators don't have a lot of NFL experience. But Seattle always seems to play. Anytime I ever see them, they seem that they play with a lot of enthusiasm. They seem that it's not just at home, but especially at home. They're a tough team to play, tough team to beat, and they don't have a lot of holes on their roster. You look up and down their defense and their offense, and Geno Smith's the quarterback, and you can say that's kind of their weak link, but I take Geno Smith right now over our quarterback, but it's not going to be an easy game. And now Malik Nabers looks like he's not going to play. There's still a chance, but it looks like Devin Singletary's not going to play. I'm actually not as concerned about that as the fact that I don't know where the confidence level is for this team, for our team. I just, I wonder if the other shoe is going to drop here soon, and it's going to get really, really ugly. I mean, I know people are saying how much uglier can it get? What's one thing I always say on the website? It can always get worse. It can always get worse. I hope it doesn't, but I look at the upcoming schedule. We might be in for a really rough ride here. So I don't know.
Not to be Pollyanna, because we talked about this even before we came on. I'm not going to go that route, but let's just put that aside for a second and say, if they magically were able to find a way to win, the schedule, looking at it the way that it is, there are some teams that they have their own issues that are coming up. Cincinnati has not played well at all. They have lots of weapons. That's kind of scary, but they haven't played that well at all. They're beatable. I mean, geez, they barely beat Carolina. They lost right off first week of the season to the Patriots, so they're beatable. You go from there. You've got a couple. You got Carolina not too far down the road. Yeah, we got a game with Pittsburgh, but they're somewhat one-dimensional offensively. I mean, they're challenged. So there's options there. But again, if we lose this game, then you start going, well, and then if you slip and you lose another one, now it's the snowball, and we're close to the snowball right now.
You're right. Well, the thing is this. Again, we talked about this or on our show on Monday. They're not. They're still alive because of what's going on in the division.
Sure.
So the Commanders actually may end up winning this division. We'll see, but they could come back to earth. They don't have a real strong roster, but their quarterback's playing really well. If people can figure him out, maybe they'll come back to earth. I don't know. But you were correct before the season started when you said that Dallas and the Eagles have their warts, and we're going to have to see. So right now they're not playing great. Problem is this, and I'm going to keep harping on this the rest of the year, and people are going to get tired of me saying it, and I'm going to have to talk about it in every game preview that I write. So every Friday, if we're playing a Sunday night game or Sunday game, I do the game preview. And in the old days, it was X's and O's, and this is how to attack, how to defend, that kind of thing. In the last 10 years, they've gotten moved away from that because it's some big structural issue. The big structural issue we have right now is this team can't score points. It can't, and it's not because of the offensive line. It's not because of the wide receivers. It's not because of the running back. We've had the same quarterback now for 6 years.
Yep.
And it's the quarterback. It's the quarterback. We've had multiple coaches. There've been, and I know there's people even in our feed on the YouTube feed. Who was it? Buckwheat.
Yeah.
If you're out there, Buckwheat, how you doing? I always think about the SNL skit. Buckwheat has been shot. So, yeah, it's the quarterback. I mean, if you've been watching this podcast since we started, when did we start this? 2 months ago?
We started it at the end of July. We did a couple shows, and then we started doing weekly shows started in August.
So what did we say from the beginning? We're rooting for Daniel Jones to succeed because that would be the best thing for the Giants. We're rooting for him, and I've said repeatedly, and I think you were kind of in that boat a little bit, but I don't want to put words in your mouth.
That's fine.
That I hadn't completely given up on him at the time. Because now we have an offensive line. You have Malik Nabers. Let's see what he can do. When you and I were talking about what he should be able to do, you were focused on the touchdown production, which was smart because now look where we're at. We're not scoring touchdowns. And people are posting on the site. And one of the first questions we got from somebody on the site was, do we have a chance without Malik Nabers? Well, sure we have it. You always have a chance.
Yeah.
Quoting another movie.
So you're saying there's a chance.
But you don't need to have an all-star receiver if you have, I mean, again, the Commanders have McLaurin, and he's really good. But they don't have a lot of talent. And look at how many points they scored last week. And it's, I hate to make it this simple, but you got the points come out of the passing game, and so the question here is, to me, and I know I'm rambling here. The question to me here is does Daniel Jones have the ability for this game or any future game to snap out of it and finally put up 24 points in a contest? And so far, the evidence is overwhelmingly no.
Well, history would say that the answer to that is no, period. The Giants averaged 21.3 points per game in 2019, 17.5 2020, 15.1 in 2021, 21.4 under Dayball's first year. But we know a lot of that was in the beginning, and then a couple of, like the Colt game added a ton of points, and the Viking game that we lost, we got a bunch of points against a bad defense that came back later. fell back to earth last year at 15.6, and we're averaging 15 right now. That's an
Now, wait a
average.
minute. How did you have all those numbers right at hand? Did you know that this is where I was going, or what?
I did not actually. I have a slide that I'm going to include that basically covers the Giants over the since 2019. And
we didn't orchestrate this.
We did
not.
not.
This is purely organic. All right. So the numbers that you're giving sounds like we're playing in the 1940s. I mean,
your best year is 21.4. 21.4.
But most of the ones that and most of the ones you're saying are in the teens. 15.
Correct.
I mean, 15 points a game. I mean, what decade is that? What century is that?
I know it's a smaller look data set for this year. It's only 4 games. But if you compare this year to last year, we're actually averaging almost 1 point less per game than we did last year.
With a better offensive line. And so I guess we'll put it this way, if you want to put a positive spin. This is the Giants' tribute to their 100th year anniversary. They gave you
same offense.
They gave you the uniforms in the first game, and now they're using the same type of productivity in the points. Oh my goodness! I mean, so how do you win games when you score 15 points? And look, a lot of people are pointing fingers here and here and here, and I'm not discounting this. Okay. The new thing is to look for scapegoats wherever you can find them. Jalen Hyatt's a problem. Brian Burns is a problem. Thibodeau's a problem. You can go down the list. Everyone's trying to come up with what's going on. Long story short is there were things that the Giants could have done better against Dallas, but they still only gave up 20 points in that game. If you hold the Dallas Cowboys, who have an explosive offense, to 20, if you told me before we played them, would you take holding Dallas to 20 points? I would say sure.
Absolutely.
I would hope to do better, but 20 points with the receivers they have and the talent they have, I would take that. But the problem is if you don't score, you can't win, and we're not scoring. And so why? So the next question is, why aren't we scoring? And to me, the answer is kind of obvious to me. It's the same. The one thing that hasn't changed is the quarterback in the last six years. I want to throw this out to you.
Yeah. Okay.
How long do we wait until we make a quarterback change and see what happens? I mean, that's I don't think they're going to, but I tell you what, I would be very curious to see what happened. And I don't believe in Locke. I don't know what we've got in DeVito, but.
So, I'll answer yours, and then I'll give you the question back to you. It's an interesting question because I've been thinking about it, and I was actually going to make a short video about it with the same thing, because the dilemma that you run into, right? You have a coach who needs to win. Daboll needs to win. He's not guaranteed he's coming back, no matter what anybody says online, no matter what any of the pundits are saying right now, or the guys covering the team are saying right now. There's a guy out there that has a pull at your heartstrings kind of thing for Mara, that a bad season could easily mean I'll open the vault to that guy, or you just get so fed up, you're just like, I'm just going to try once again. So we don't know that. So he has to win. Dallas and Philadelphia coming back to the pack muddies the water for decisions being made for the Giants. It's easy for us. It's easy for us to go bench him. But if I know the guys behind him, in theory, if I know they're not as good as the guy out there, then I can't switch them, or I've just told everybody I gave up on the season and I'm sure going to get fired. Now, the other piece to that is, what if you did bench him now? And this is where I'll throw it to you. If I were to bench him now, if I pull Jones, let's say they lose this game and I pull him, or they lose again to Cincinnati, so 2 games. Now I pull him. I'm like, you know what? Whatever. I'm going to pull him. Do you put in Locke, or do you go to DeVito? I personally, I gain nothing from Locke. What's the point? I might as well find out what I got in DeVito. Let him play. Let Locke be the backup. Jones goes to third, and you just play it that way the rest of the year. Let DeVito do whatever. You'll get the fans excited for a short amount of time. If Locke comes in and he does, basically the same thing as Jones, you've gained nothing.
There is what I think will happen and what I would like to happen. What I think will happen is exactly what you said, is Daboll's playing for his job. They look at the division still being wide open, and they're still clinging on to whatever you want to call it.
Hope.
I don't know. I don't know what. Can you imagine going into the film room when the players aren't there and the coaches are looking at the tape and looking at the stuff and saying, what are we doing? I see. This is what I don't know. Remember my rant? We talked before we came on about your rant on Monday. Remember my rant was always, what are we doing? What are we doing?
Right.
So when they came in 2022 and did not give it the 5th-year option to Daniel Jones, that made complete sense. And that a lot of people were like, thank God we've got somebody in here who is not just, they're making business decisions. They're making smart football decisions. And at the time there were only very few people. In hindsight, it kind of would have worked out better a little bit for us because maybe they wouldn't have extended, they wouldn't have had to done the contract. But at the time, it was the right thing to do. Okay, so 2022 comes along, and then they open up the vaults, and let's leave Barkley out of this,
Sure,
because I'm just going to leave Barkley out of this. They open up the vault and they give him the contract, which made me a little nervous at the time because I knew they had dumbed down the offense for Daniel. And I'm like, oh my God, they better be right on this because look at the size of this contract. And then it comes out, it's basically a 2-year deal. And I'm thinking, well, maybe we can get rid of it. But again, as I talked about on Monday, 2 years is an eternity. So right now, I feel like nothing's in sync right now. I feel like you'd want the GM and the coach and the quarterback to all be coming in together and on the same page. And it seems like we're once more, like we've been oftentimes in the last 10 years, we've got a coach that didn't pick a GM that didn't really pick the coach or the quarterback, or something's going on here. And it feels like we just threw another season away. It just feels like we're throwing seasons out. And I'm going someplace with this. So
sure.
So right now, Jones isn't going to be here. I feel like we're wasting time right now. This is dumb. I know why. You and I know why they're doing what they're doing, because Daboll's playing for his job.
Right.
But I feel like it's just wasting time right now. He's not going to be here. If he is going to be here, I'm going to really question about why the hell am I even doing this anymore? Because why do we spend the whole off season, which is much longer than the regular season, to build up for a season that's over in a month? And that's kind of where we're at right now. We've been doing this now, other than 2016 and other than 2022. We're the Giant fan base, which used to be one of the most passionate and involved ones, is now
apathetic,
accustomed to the season to being over. So to answer your question is this, and I've been thinking about this too, and they won't do this, but this is what I would do. I would bench Daniel now and go with DeVito. And and the reason I would do that is Locke's not going to be here next year. Hopefully Daniel's not going to be here next year. The only one who has a chance to be here next year is DeVito. So why don't you? And he's also a guy who came in last year and he did something that Daniel has not done since his rookie year, and that's throw 3 touchdown passes in one single game. Right. Daniel did that his rookie year. He hasn't done it since. And that was 6 years ago or 5 years ago. And DeVito did it in his, whatever it was, second, third game, whatever it was. So I'm not saying DeVito is the quarterback of the future. I'm just saying he's the only guy who should be even in discussion of being on the roster next year, who's currently on the roster. Do I think they're going to do that? No, but it's what I would do. But I'm not playing for my job at this point either, too.
So part of it, almost everything, I agree with almost every single thing that you said. There's one thing that it's not that I don't agree with it, but here's the part that I think doesn't fit exactly the way we're talking about it. We're talking about it in hindsight. We're here week 4 looking back saying, here's what's happened through these first 4 weeks. The problem is, though, they were competitive in week 2 and should have probably won, minus a kicker and a couple of small things, and definitely should have beaten Dallas. You had multiple opportunities, and it's not even like, oh, woulda, coulda. I mean, if this play hadn't happened and Dallas didn't get that touchdown, Dallas barely did anything this game. There were multiple opportunities that we had going down the field. Guys are wide open. A big play there, which a lot of other teams, I'm not asking you to make all of them, just one of them changes the complexity of this entire game.
And that's what Dallas did with CD Lamb. They did
that. And if you think about it, right, we were very thin in the secondary. They scored 20 points. Right. 20. And
that's my point. So I don't think the defense played great, but they still held them to 20 points.
So a part of it says they are in these games. You can't just throw up your hands as a coaching staff because they probably should have won. My question, though, now I'm going to change it slightly to you. Is there anything in those first 4 games that you saw, and it doesn't matter which game, any of the games that you saw that you said, geez, it's a good thing that was Daniel and not Locke or not DeVito, or we wouldn't have made that play? Because for me, I'm thinking you could have played any one of our 3 quarterbacks, and we're probably in all of those games. And the question just becomes, do the other 2 possibly make plays down the field that Daniel didn't make that would have been different?
Well, that's a great question. So the one thing Daniel's not doing, and some of it has been luck a little bit because people could have picked passes off.
Oh, absolutely.
One thing he's not done is turn the ball over.
Right.
We've seen Daniel turn the ball over. So it's kind of like what you said on Monday. He didn't do anything to lose the game, but he didn't do anything to win the game. So so DeVito and Locke certainly could come in and start. I mean, we saw Locke in the preseason. The problem is that we didn't see enough of Locke. People are going to say, well, we've seen enough of Locke with other teams. We know he stinks. Probably. Seattle wanted him back. And he did have a decent game against the Eagles last year for Seattle. I would have liked to have seen him more in the preseason, but he was hurt. But Locke can certainly come in and throw interceptions and fumble, and so can DeVito. So yes, it could get worse. This is where I'm coming from, and then people are going to say, and again, I don't expect them to do this because they're going to think of the way that you're thinking of this. These games that they've lost have been close, and if this happens or this happens or this happens, we can start winning some games. That's what they're thinking.
That's what they're going to hold on to.
And that's what they're going to hold on to. What I'm coming from is this is not. I know, again, I'm not looking. I've used this phrase a number of times in our podcast. I'm not operating in a vacuum here. I'm not just looking at 2024. I'm looking at what happened in previous seasons with Daniel Jones too. And this is just the thing with him. He just doesn't, since his rookie season, he just doesn't produce points. And I think he's broken. I think he's either physically or mentally broken. And I hope, again, he has a breakout game. And again, I keep saying this in the podcast too. I hope somebody proves me wrong. And with him, and it just doesn't, it's not happening. And so it could get much worse by switching quarterbacks. My thing is I'm looking at this schedule, and I'm looking at this team, and I'm looking at the fact that they're going to start. I mean, at some point, I'm afraid that they're going to lose the locker room on this. And so I'm thinking, how many wins does this team really have? And if we're going to have another losing year, I would rather play somebody that would, let me put it this way. I'll put it very simply.
Sure.
I'd be more curious to watch the Giants play with DeVito playing quarterback on Sunday than I will be with Daniel Jones. Because with Daniel Jones, I know what we're going to get. With DeVito, I have absolutely no idea what we're going to get. Probably bad, but it would at least give me something to look at. BBI's dead right now. It's October 3rd. It's dead because everyone in apathy set in and depression set in. There we go.
I'll put it in twice.
Because people are like, we don't have a chance. And we've gone through, you and I go back a long time as Giants fans. We've been through some terrible, terrible seasons. But in all those bad seasons, for the most part, in the 80s, late 70s, 80s, 90s, even on terrible teams, there was always Giants fans always felt that because of the defense or whatever, they could win a game and upset a team. Even when Dallas was like really, really good and going to Super Bowls, there were times when we had like Dave Brown playing quarterback, and we would upset the Cowboys. Tito Wooten would return a fumble
There
for
you
a
go.
touchdown, and we'd win like whatever 20-15 or something. But you felt like we could steal a game here and there. I don't even feel like we can steal games anymore. And this is what's really bothering me too about this coaching staff. I was really up on this coaching staff in 2022 because I knew we were winning games we shouldn't have won, and even the games that we lost, at least we were in. But now I feel like we're not. It feels like the team is it's competitive, but it feels like they know they're going to lose. We had a really good conversation
That's a good point.
with Mark Collins on our podcast with him, and when you and I got off with him, we talked to him when we weren't recording, and he said something very interesting. One of the reasons I'd like to have him come back on sometime. He said that those 80s and early 90s Giants teams felt they were going to beat the Redskins. But they also felt like they were going to lose to the Eagles because something weird always used to happen.
Yep.
And he always said that they felt they were going to give the 49ers trouble because in the 40, he said they went into those. So the thing is there is such a thing. He confirmed this. There is such a thing that teams feel like fans do, that right now we feel like when we go and play the Eagles right now, we're never going to beat them. And the same with the Cowboys. All right. He confirmed that teams feel that way too. And what I worry about right now with this team is that, do the Giants players themselves feel like they can go into Seattle and beat Seattle? I don't think they've got that confidence. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. But that's what I'm worried about right now. Have they lost confidence in themselves?
It's one of those things, and I know, I don't want to speak for you, but I know you won't agree with the thought, and I know Go Terps and a few others definitely will not agree with the thought. But it is why I believe that winning games is important. You can't continually tank. This team has
no, you're right.
This team has tanked without even trying to tank. You know what I mean? It's one thing if you're going, you know what, we pull all our starters and we don't care because we know and we're playing for next year. They try to win all the way to the end of the season, but it looks like they've been tanking. So you have to start winning games. One of the things you keep saying, and it's the term really is apathetic. Fans are apathetic to what happens. You become to just expect. I expect to be bored. It's not even exciting losing.
No, it's not. It's boring.
In 1980, the Giants won what? 4 games? They were 4-12. They won a game against Dallas, 38-35. That was the Mike Freedy game. Mike Freedy had this big. If you don't even know who Mike Freedy is, trust me, you're either too young or you got to dig deep into memory. He was not a big time player, but that was a Mike Freedy game. That was a game that was very exciting. It was one of the few that we won, but I remember it to this day. It gave you something, and then LT came around, and then that was different. But we've been getting guys, right? We've locked in our left tackle. You've locked in your defensive tackle. These are guys that are considered across the league. Other teams would want them.
Right. And Cy talked about this. So Malik Nabers, Andrew Thomas, Dexter Lawrence, and Brian Burns, people have been slamming him this week, but remember, and I'm sorry I cut you off, but remember what Connor told us about the Jets. They said that Brian Burns is a stud. They said that guy's a pain in the ass. So, I mean,
we don't put one of the biggest problems that we have right now is you carry no excitement. That's part one. Part two, the part about no confidence. Imagine if you're on the team, right? Mm-hmm. And every time you turn the TV on, and we're not talking local TV, local New York media, national media is making jokes about the fact here comes the Giants. And who's it usually tied to?
Daniel Jones.
There comes a point, and this week really it floored me because you I think will back up what I'm about to say. I was probably still closer to on the fence defending some of the things about him, even last year, even kind of this year, where I gave stats that I thought he would get, even though I did say, and you can go back and look at it, I thought the Giants were done with him regardless of what happens this year. It seemed obvious the way they did things. that they were done. It's a contract thing, and when this season's over, we're going to get in a different guy. But at this point, there are still people that defend what they saw.
I can't believe it.
And I'm like, how can you possibly look at that and say, oh, you're nitpicking. Look at what he did for completion. I don't care how many completions he has. If they're bad passes and the guy catches it, great. If it's a bad pass and he drops it, you're blaming the receiver. Well, which one is it? I mean, it's like, okay, you expect them to catch every bad pass. There's someone made a highlight clip and they showed a couple of things. The first one was Slayton's run down the field. He slides and he drops it. First off, that was not a natural slide. The ball was coming in low. He had no choice. See, the ball leading, Slayton's ahead of the defender. That's a TD. That's a TD. 4 years ago, Jones makes that pass to Slayton. They had a connection. They don't have it anymore.
Well, that's the thing that's weird is where's that connection? I mean, they had that.
I think it's neck related. He does not make those. They don't look right going down the field.
I don't know what it is, but it's just. And again, you know, so, I said. Oh, I'm sorry.
No. So there was a second pass that he used in a highlight, and it's the one where Robinson. He's on. So we're going. He can't really tell which way. So we're on the screen. You're going this way. We're going straight back towards it. So. For Robinson, he was running and he's turning to make it out. So Jones is throwing to his right. So it should be a natural throw. So Robinson dives a little bit, it bounces off his hands. They say, see, he didn't catch it. I'm like, first off, why the hell does he have to dive coming back to the ball? He's turned around facing the quarterback. If you threw it to him, he makes the catch.
Yeah.
But to top it off, it's a shitty pass. He has to dive. And this goes to the point that you made on Monday. Dear God, it was 3rd and 8, and you're throwing a 6-yard pass that the receiver has to dive for.
And that's been going on since the beginning of the year this year.
Yes.
And sometimes that's got to happen. Like sometimes the team's blitzing, and you got a hot read, and you got to do it. And we do have some guys.
And that was not the time, though.
So, but when the game's on the line, and there is no tomorrow, you got to throw beyond the sticks. You can't leave that kind of thing up, even if it's a riskier throw. So. We talked about it earlier that we've used these adjectives, robotic, to describe him.
Yeah,
and
mechanical. Yeah.
This is the thing what frustrates with me with Daniel Jones. He knows he's on. This is it, and if I was in his shoes, I would say blanket. I would say, it's kind of like when Bill Parcells went 3-12-1, and he said, if I'm going to get fired next year, I'm going to do it my way. I'm going to go down swinging. Phil Simms, Parcells came to Phil Simms back in the 86 season and said, I don't care if you throw interceptions. You need to get back to your old self and
right.
Win. Okay.
Right.
Daniel Jones, to me, right now needs to say, blanket, I know I'm toast regardless. He should. I would act if I was him. I would act like dead man walking. I have nothing to lose. If I'm out of here, I'm going to go out of here. I'm going to throw the football on the field, and if I throw interception, so be it. Because I see the writing on the wall that I got one way to save my job here, and I've got to change the way I play. Anything else, and it's either slow death, death by 1,000 cuts, or so what if I turn the ball over? It's going to be the same thing anyways. And what makes me mad with him is it's just like, just throw the ball down the field. Just, it's kind of like when he got hurt last year, and the two quarterbacks came in and they just started throwing the football down the field, and it worked. And it was like, and we were all the collective fan base, the whole fan base was like, I forgot what that felt like. I forgot what it was like to complete a 40-yard pass down the field. And then the what do we call them? The Daniel Jones fan club or whatever came out and said, well, he didn't have it. The line was different because Andrew Thomas was back and stuff. No, he threw the football down the field. Look, Saquon. The best thing for Saquon was to go leave the Giants and go to another team. The best thing for Daniel at this point is to leave the Giants and go to another team, or to take his money and just retire and buy an island someplace. But I long roundabout way, I would prefer to get a new quarterback, because at least it would allow me to look forward to something. I mean, this game on Sunday is going to be so depressing. If they win, I'll be.
What bothers me is there was a Paul Dottino shared it, and I know Paul watches the episodes. I know he checks things out on BBI, and I like Paul. You like Paul. We've had Paul on. And I will honestly tell Paul when I don't agree with him, and I don't agree with some of the things he's been saying about Daniel Jones. He shared a thing today though that I don't know if you saw it, that Kafka said, and they brought up the question about the deep passes from Daniel Jones, and this is what he said today. He threw some really good deep passes today in practice, and that was on what for Wednesday. He's great, and I'm thinking, oh my God. It's bad enough your coach comes out and says, I'm really proud of the way he competed, and I'm proud that he threw it to the right places. Holy shit. Is that the level we've come to that we're like,
we've had 4 coaches in a row now, or whatever the number is, say, well, we practiced really well this week.
Yeah, I hate that.
Oh, great. We lost. But
where's Allen
so
Iverson?
Didn't really matter, did it?
Where's Iverson? We're talking about practice. Like, but here's the thing, right? A, you're throwing against your own team. B, who gives a shit? C, everything in a game says to me he cannot make those passes. It's not one game, it's 4. And his thing was, and I don't know if he was joking around. There's a back and forth between him and I think it was Renan, and then Stapleton got in and thought maybe that, or Dunleavy got in. One of them got in thinking that maybe Jones was messing with whoever asked him the question. And he's like, well, I'm kind of a Goldilocks approach. I was too short, too long, and then the next one's going to be just right. Bullshit. You have been just plain awful, and there's no rhyme or reason to it. So
don't you get sometimes the feel that the press corps, it's kind of hit or miss one way or the other. They're either extreme. They're either going to go after them, or sometimes they're playing Baghdad Bob with this stuff.
Well,
it's kind of like
I thought about that. You mentioned it. I was just thinking about it a minute ago. The national media, right? They bashed the Giants. They totally bashed the Giants and make fun of Jones. But if you've watched the narrative over the last couple of weeks, and you look, what are they doing now? Because so many people are bashing him. They're like, oh, if you think Jones is the problem, you're not paying attention. The receivers need to catch. What's going on with the defense? Jones complete. I'm like, are you kidding me?
Meanwhile, they got a GM who's telling the GM of
the Bears.
The Bears, it must be nice not having to scout other quarterbacks. So don't give us this bullshit. I mean, it's just
so
we got some questions too. So
let's hit those. Let's hit those, and then we'll decide what we're
wait a minute. Nah, my mouse froze. Wait a minute. So let's finish up on this too. All right, here we go. All right, because I want to get more questions. So the first question was from Scooter, and we with the Nabers question we already addressed. Do they have a chance with Nabers out? And they have a chance to win with or without him. Obviously, Nabers being in there increases their chances, but it comes back to the quarterback. Now, LG and NYC said, what do you think is going to be the thing that gets them out of this decade-long funk that they're in? Oh, boy. Obviously, we talk about the quarterback position, but it's almost never just one person or one position. Maybe you both think it's simple as getting a good quarterback, but in your opinion, it goes deeper than that. I'd love to hear your thoughts. That's a really good question. So the big question is this to me, and I want to hear what you have to say.
Yeah.
To me is this. The quarterback's a problem. We don't have a quarterback. I've been saying this for months now. It pisses some people off. Some of the people are like, yay, Eric's got it right. I don't want to be right. I look at our quarterback. I look at the rest of the league. There's a league-wide problem at quarterback. Look who have the good quarterbacks. And the perfect example are the Houston Texans and the Washington Commanders. Look what a quarterback can do. You get the quarterback. Right. The big question is not that to me. The big question is, do we have the right coaching staff and do we have the right general manager? And that's now up for debate right now. And I want these guys to succeed. I can make arguments for them right now, but I could also make arguments against them. If you told me, LG, if you came to me as my boss and said, Eric, I want you to write an article tomorrow about why Dable and Shane are great, or you came to me and say, write an article why they suck. I could do both. I could do both right now.
And that's not
where
good.
I'm at right now.
That's not good. Yeah. So as far as I'm concerned, is it as simple as the quarterback? It's not as simple as the quarterback, but think of it this way. He's the linchpin of the entire offense. So the points, and I know this got bantered back and forth, and I'm glad you mentioned it the other earlier. I did make this statement, and I'm going to make it again. Daniel Jones is not the reason we lost to the Cowboys. He is the reason we did not win. And if you don't understand the difference of that, I don't know how to help you.
No, I think most people understand.
There were people that argued, and he says that doesn't make any sense. No, it absolutely does. He didn't make a mistake. He didn't make a mistake that cost them the game. It wasn't a tie game, and Jones did something wrong, and that led them to lose.
All right, let me put it this way for those people that don't understand this: the quarterback on an NFL football team is the most important player on the team, bar none. And the most important player on your team has to be a playmaker. He has to be the guy that is a difference maker, especially in 2024. You have to, if your quarterback can't make plays, it limits everything you do. And that in a nutshell. So if you're just okay, that's not good enough today. That's it in a nutshell.
And if you look at the highlights, Cy put up a rookie video that their offensive rookie players for this past week. You look at the video and the highlights of Jaden Daniels. When he's running forward, he's making a pass. He just flips one out. He throws another one deep down the field. He makes a run. Every one of those passes looks better than the pass that Jones throws. And I know that's comparing one player to another, but so does Brock Purdy. I watched Brock Purdy against the Patriots. Go look at what he did. That's why I keep starting to wonder. I don't know that we lose much if we put in a DeVito, because the one thing he does do pretty well, he anticipates where the receiver's going. Go back and look at the preseason game. I believe it was against the Lions. He throws a wheel route to Eric Gray. It was a perfect pass. Jones has never thrown one like that ever. It's a leading, it's timed, it's perfect. He catches it. I'm not saying DeVito is better than Jones overall. He doesn't have the stature, he doesn't have the experience, but I don't know that he wouldn't bring something different, because Jones right now, yes, he is the reason they didn't win. He didn't lose the game, but he did nothing that would have won it.
Let's make it a Giants connection here. Okay, to me, the two greatest passes that Eli Manning ever threw, I probably could think of others, but they occurred back to back pretty much. The 2011 NFC Championship game, Eli's getting the crap beat out of him. But that 3rd and 15 pass he made into the end zone to Manningham for a touchdown after he'd been the crap beat out of him against tight coverage in that situation with what was on the line.
Borderline triple coverage. There were 3 guys in the area.
And that was one of the great throws in Giants history, if you ask me. And then, then the Super Bowl, the Manningham catch on the sideline. You know, everyone talks about the catch, which was fantastic, but he dropped the ball. You couldn't have handed it to him any better.
Right.
Okay. Daniel Jones doesn't make those plays.
No.
A lot of quarterbacks don't make those plays. But when you say he didn't do anything to win the game, Eli Manning won those games with those plays. He lifted the team. He elevated the team up around him by making those throws. That's why, in a lot of ways, you can argue Eli's a Hall of Fame quarterback. His regular season, he's got numbers, but the win-loss record is going to sabotage him there. But in the playoffs, oh my goodness, he took it to. He's much better quarterback in the playoffs than his brother was.
And to be honest, we're not asking Jones in the Dallas game.
He doesn't have to do that. But anything like that.
But what I'm saying is, in the Dallas game, we're not talking about having to make this incredible. We're talking about making a standard throw that NFL quarterbacks make. Even average quarterbacks make some of those throws, and he made none of them.
Well, the other thing is he had a free play.
Exactly. That's a TD.
He had a get out of jail free card, and he could have take a chance. And what did he do? He underthrew the ball by a mile.
Right.
How does that even happen?
Right.
I mean, so, all right. And the other question here, all right, let's see. This is from the evil lurker. Ha ha ha. Thoughts on who will go and who will stay? Well, that's going to be complicated. Are they going to do a total rebuild?
No.
thoughts on what will happen and what should happen. Sorry to be negative. And let me just see if there's any other questions here while I'm doing this. Oh, there is. There's two more. So we should move on to these. That's a really, I already heard what you said.
Yeah,
That's
there won't be a total
complicated
rebuild.
because that
Won't
depends
be.
on what happens to Shane and Dable. My every fiber in my being says Mara wants to have any possible excuse, and this may be the right thing, to hold on to both of these guys. He doesn't want to go through this again. So if both of these guys return, they don't have to do a rebuild. They need a quarterback.
Yeah. Yeah.
If
Shane, I think
you put, it's what I said. It's what I said with you and Cy last week. Look what Jaden Daniels has done for the Commanders.
Right.
And that Redskins Commanders roster is not good. It's not.
No.
It's not a good roster. So we are, it's the hardest position to find, but we're a quarterback away. Now the question is, do you go with a veteran or do you go with a rookie? And do you have to go through those growing pains too? If you get a Jane Daniels type rookie, it's instant. But a lot of quarterbacks, they need, like look at what's happening with Drake May. They've made the decision, at least for now, that he needs to be.
I think that was intentional for that one in particular. I think that was intentional from the get-go because they knew they were going to be really bad, and their offensive line is pathetic.
And
you're not going to let your quarterback get killed. You get killed early. Yeah.
So
no, I don't think it'll be a total rebuild. I think Shane is safe. Dayball's the one that I think is in question. But I think the longer they go with Jones, the more that I think that they were probably told that they're safe. But I think Jones is gone no matter what, and I think we go get a quarterback.
This is what bothers me is a lot of fans right now are super negative on the entire team because they're tired of this, and I don't have the energy level to argue with them. I've always said it always can get worse, but I've always said it's never as bad as it seems. And it's never as good as it seems. And right now, this is not a terrible roster. The Giants have their best offensive line they've had in years. They have good receivers, including a star receiver. And if you have those two things on offense, you're ahead of a lot of teams in the NFL. They've got a star and they've got good offensive line. They got to get that running game going again. They had it moving. They had it going in some games, and the last time they played, it was a disaster. But they got to get that running game going. Defensively, they've got a very young secondary that has a lot of promise. They're having their growing pains. We talked about this all preseason, but they've got that. They have Dexter Lawrence, and regardless of what the lightning rods on defense right now are Thibodeau and Burns, but I kind of agree with our defensive coordinator right now, who said today, and I kind of agree with him on this, is one of the reasons they're not getting there is the other quarterbacks are getting the ball out very quickly on them. They know they don't have a lot of time and they're throwing the ball quickly. So the question is, do they have the right defensive coordinator? I don't know, but I don't think Burns is a problem. I don't think Thibodeau is a problem. I want Thibodeau to be better than he is, but I don't think he's a problem. So I don't think there's a massive talent issue on this team. I think there's a quarterback issue.
Well, I think if you flip the scores somewhat, that opens up our pass rush. When the other team's playing ahead, they can just do quick throws. We don't mind if we punt. We know you're not going to drive down the field. You're not doing anything. Look at the Cleveland game. When we got up by 21, we're able to rush and blitz and whatever. But in the second half, we went kind of weirdly conservative with the offense and we had the one turnover and things went off the rails a little bit. All of a sudden, Cleveland's now coming back and we're not getting there as easy as we were. Right. If the scoreboard flips a little bit, the pass rush will come back. But the problem is we play from behind most of the time.
And the run defense has been tightening up. I mean, it's starting to trend in the right direction. Well, again, 4 games is too early, but it's
right.
People are going, well, they're not good against the run. Well, it's been trending in the right direction. We'll have to see. So, all right, real quick, because I know you want to keep this tight. Whoa, there's a lot of questions here from Piranha.
We could, in theory, we could take a break.
Yeah.
And then and quickly and then pick it right back up.
Well, this seems to be loaded questions. He already answered his own questions here. Let's just take one from his and then one from the last one, and we can. All right, so Why do we keep playing Cordell Flop? He calls him Flop.
Oh,
Cordell
I like Cordell.
Actually didn't play terribly last week.
No, he's all right.
Why is Boogie on the roster? Boogie's on the roster in case somebody gets hurt. Is Nacho still on the team? Yes. Why does Daniel keep throwing short of the sticks? We addressed that. Deontay, why don't we know if Johnson is healthy enough to play? Because he's on injured reserve.
Yeah, so he wouldn't be able to. Yeah.
And if he was, they would have started the clock.
And he hasn't. He hasn't even.
Yeah,
they haven't opened that
I think
window
he's
yet.
close, but they haven't started the clock. Why are we playing a 34-year-old guard who doesn't pull on running plays? Because they want stability on the offensive line, and the offensive line actually hasn't been a huge problem. People are looking for, if you're looking for perfection on the offensive line, nobody's got that in the league. Why don't we have a power back as number 2 behind Singletary? Eric Gray's a dud. I don't agree with Eric Gray comment, but Eric Gray's 3rd team right now.
A lot of these questions are they're not bad questions, except for the fact that they're questions you ask a team that is 3-1 with a few things that they could have done differently. This is a 1-3 team. Don't really care about the guy who's like the 2nd or 3rd running back when our problem is our starting quarterback. The offensive line needs to gel. And the only other option we have is Neal, and they obviously don't feel Neal is ready to play tackle and move Illuminor inside.
Yeah, he wants to bench John Michael Schmitz too, which makes absolutely no sense to me. He was actually size player of the studs a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, he's got to play. I mean, again, one thing I'll say is, people, please stop. And I'm not busting on this one person in particular, so please don't be mad at me later. But what I'm saying is, I hear this too much. You're not going to have 5 all-pros on the offensive line. They have to work together. We talked to Rich Seibert about this. That's exactly what it is. It's when they work together, they work well, they cover for each other's weaknesses, and it gels as a line. There are no 5 all-pro offensive. There's no like Oakland Raiders of the 70s or the Steelers or whatever. There's no Cowboys of Larry Allen and Stepnoski and those guys. Teams are made up of a couple of good guys, one really good guy, and a couple other guys that really work well together, and that's where you're at.
Right. And the other thing too, I want to piggyback on that is exactly, number one, what you just said is offensive lines are all about cohesion and chemistry. And this offensive line is actually playing it's the best offensive line we've had in a decade.
Yeah.
And so why do you want to start messing with it right now? Especially, and the other thing is, young players need time to develop. John Michael Schmitz is still a young player, and he's actually been playing pretty well for the most part. I think he's coming off a game that he didn't play great against Dallas, but the week before he played great. So again, you got to let your young players and develop. So you don't sit young guys. All right. And then running back contingency if Singletary is limited. So if Singletary doesn't play, he's asking, is it going to be a platoon thing? And I think so. I think Tyrone Tracy's too, his frame isn't big enough to take the full load. I think you'll see him and Gray split the carries. I'm actually kind of curious to be honest.
And I think you might see Wandell out of the backfield, taking some pitch, taking some of lining up and then running out in pass patterns too. I think we would bring up Miller from.
And I like Singletary, but I'm actually curious to see more of Tyrone Tracy. And again, Eric Gray.
I just don't want him to return kicks.
I think can be 1,000-yard runner in this league. I don't get the obsession with people railing on Gray. I do. They look at the kickoff return thing and they automatically assume
and that's not his fault. He shouldn't be doing it.
All right, Mara. Will John Mara have to step down for the franchise to finally return relevance?
No.
That's not.
No,
that's not going to happen.
You don't step down when you own it. So,
DJ's contract. Who do you think DJ? Wait, do you think DJ continues on the same path with Shane? Offered a restructure, or just cut him? Wait, do you think DJ continues on the same path? I think he needed a period there. Will Shane offer to restructure or just cut him? I think he's going to be cut. Don't you?
If you go and if you're drafting a young guy, you don't want Jones to be the guy in front of him because the fans will be calling for the young guy immediately, no matter what. So if we're going to go young, if we're going to draft, then we'll probably have a veteran, a lock re-signing, or a DeVito slides in and just is the starter until the young guy beats him out. I don't see Jones being on this team after this year. He's too much of a lightning rod.
Other than the quarterback position, what I have noticed with Shane and Dable is they are not afraid to cut ties with anybody.
Right.
So Leonard Williams and other players, and going back to Bradbury in the first year that they were here, but Saquon, they don't have a problem. And it looks like Shane's pretty cutthroat with the financial stuff. You know, when he, right or wrong, whether you agree with him or not, he'll look at a number and say, and Shane's pretty much said in Hard Knocks, this is it. You know, this is his year, final year. So I agree with John on this. As I said, do you really want to put? I don't think it would help the Giants, and I think it would be a horrible thing to do to Daniel to have him on a team next year with a quarterback that everybody else wants to see, and every fan in New York wants Daniel gone. That would be a horrible situation to put the team in. I think they would part ways at that point. The worst case scenario to me for the Giants is this: is if they win just enough games this year, whatever that number is, I don't know, where they decide to keep Jones another year. If they do that, oh my God, I can't even.
I feel like that. I feel like that bus is
gone.
Go
Terps think that's going to happen. I don't think that's going to happen. But if that happens,
I think it would. Put it this way: I don't agree with that at all. Unless they would have to make the playoffs, they'd have to win a playoff game. And I know that's the same dilemma that we already ran into, but what I'm saying is for them to make that decision, it would have to be that. And I still think we go get a guy, even if Jones is there. But that's the only way Jones stays. Because right now, what you've seen is I'm still in the mindset, and I know there's other people, and I'm wondering if there isn't people on the Giants coaching staff that isn't wondering it. If you played Locke or DeVito, do we win the game against Washington? Do we win the game against Dallas? I don't think anything.
Well, that's the $1 million question. But again, I know he's not. The Giants aren't going to the Super Bowl, and Jones isn't going to be here. So why are we even wasting time? I mean, this seems.
Well, that's true.
We're going through the motions. We're going through the motions right now.
Again, that's me. That's me. That's you. We're not the.
I know we're not able.
Wondering if, and I think, but at some point he's going to have to. At some point, he's got to be like, if my only chance of winning is this is the guy keeping me from winning, how do you look at that game against Dallas and not go, Daniel Jones is one of the main reasons we didn't win?
That's where I'm at.
You set up a couple of perfect plays, scenarios where you got them to jump off sides. All you had to do was chuck it down the field. You had another guy wide open. And then there's the one that Cy talked about that I don't think got a lot of attention from people of when Cy said it. He was at the game. There was a play later in the game where Nabers, he feels, was wide open, and Nabers was frustrated coming back that Jones hadn't thrown him the ball. That's not a good sign from a guy so far who's been a very good soldier about stuff, and he's been getting the crap beat out of him because they're just throwing him the ball in double, triple coverage. He's getting hammered. Now he's got a concussion. At some point, if we lose, so let's finish it up real quick.
Yeah, I want to say one thing though. Yeah. So one thing I do want to say is this: if they bench him and they bring in another quarterback, DeVito or Locke, and either one of them bombs and is worse than Jones, you're going to get people, a lot of them going out there. I told you guys are idiots, you morons. Guess what? I don't care. I know. I know what we have in Jones. I don't know what we have. I think I know we don't have a quarterback. Period.
Well, let me ask you this.
But I want to do something else than what we've been doing for 6 years. So if let me just finish this. I'm talking to the people out there that are going to be like, I told you so. I don't care. I don't care if DeVito is horrific. Right. But at least we'll know at that point.
Well, let me ask you this to go with your point. If we lose 20-19, or we lose 20,
then we're going to go on and on.
No. Let me finish. If we lose 20-19, or we lose 20-3, what's the difference in the column?
Yeah.
We're not winning.
But
We're not
but you
scoring.
can understand the coaching again. So the coaches
But I'm talking about the
coaches
fans.
are in battle mode right now.
Right,
So
but I'm
coaches
talking about the
are
fans bitching at you
right.
for making that
Oh,
statement. Well, my point is, if we lose 20-19 because the guy can't freaking score, does it matter that we lost 20-3 because the other guy couldn't score? But we don't know what the other guy can do,
that's
but
my
we
point.
do know the
I
first
want
guy.
to know I want to find out more information. I have said from the beginning of this year, we don't have a quarterback.
You have said that.
Some people don't like hearing that, but I've said we don't have a quarterback. So
Yeah.
that means Locke and DeVito too. So the response is, well, why does it matter? Because I want to be 100% sure that we don't. And DeVito did enough last year to make me go, hmm. And part of this gets back to what Cy said. So Cy said last week, he said he kind of wishes the Giants had drafted a quarterback so he could see what Dable and this Kafka and this coaching staff could do developing a quarterback. Well,
Right.
we have one of those guys on the roster already. His name's DeVito. They
So
brought him in. Again, the odds are heavily
stacked against him, sure.
stacked against him. Heavily stacked against. He's an
But,
undrafted rookie free agent.
but if the theory is you have better players at wide receiver, in theory, and we have better players at tight end, although so far that has not been proven, and we have a better offensive line, and that's been proven, then wouldn't the benefit to the quarterback, whether it's Jones or DeVito, be the same thing? Meaning, DeVito did what he did last year with the same
That's what I
shitty
want to see.
ensemble.
That's why I want to see him.
It's
I
the
want
same
to see
thing, right?
DeVito with a better offensive line throwing to Malik Nabers and Wan'Dale Robinson and Hyatt and Slayton. I would like to see DeVito playing with the first team. And if he bombs, so be it. But I would like to give him 8 games. I would like to, I don't want to give him just 2, 3, or 4.
So how many more games? How many more games do you give
I think
Daniel
we're
Jones
stuck
being
with
the
Jones.
starter?
I think we're stuck with Jones. I'm being a pessimist about this because I think like you think, I think Dable's coaching scared right now.
I agree.
And I think that's kind of reflected a little bit in his play calling a little bit. But I don't have anything to base it on than opinion. I feel like this my final big points on this are two. One has nothing to do with what we've been talking about. I just want to finish the loop on something we talked about. Everybody out there who's saying bench this or screw that guy or whatever that, the non-Jones players, this is a very young team. The only way that these guys get better is if they play. Stop trying to bench everybody. Let most of this team develop. So
Right.
I can say if you want to say Neal should be playing over Van Roten, I guess, but I wouldn't tinker with the offensive line, especially if you're going to try to get an evaluation on the quarterbacks. I just wouldn't mess with the offensive line right now. And plus, Neal didn't play guard all summer, so
Yeah, you can't
throwing him
move.
in a position he hasn't even practiced.
If you put Neal in, he has to play tackle. You kind of
so,
have to put him in.
And you're not going to do. I mean, this is the kind of thing I think Giants fans need to start thinking more and stop reacting emotionally to stuff with some of the stuff. Some of the stuff doesn't make sense that they're saying. Like sit John Michael Schmitz. That doesn't make any sense. Stop. You said
who? I mean,
stop. Stop. No, stop. So. And what were we? I lost my train of thought. What were we just talking about? The quarterback?
Yeah. So basically, I was saying how long do you go with Jones? And we'll wrap it up with whatever we think is going to happen on Sunday. But how long do you go with Jones if it's you? Don't worry about Daboll's choice. Where do you think he?
I would make this. I would make that. Obviously, they're not going to do it now because
he's playing in Seattle.
I would make it. I would when they lose to Seattle. I would make the move. The obvious choice is going to be the bye week, but I don't expect them to do it. If the longer these games remain close, they're going to get into this mindset. Oh, we're so close. You saw it today. Some of the guys were saying, "Oh, we're so close to." But I don't think.
I think it depends on two things. It depends on what they do themselves, and then what happens with Dallas and Philadelphia. If Dallas loses to Pittsburgh again, that's another loss for Dallas. Even if the Giants lose, now we're still just one game different between.
Where's
those
that game?
It's in.
Or we don't know.
I think it's in. Is it in Dallas? I'm not
It
sure.
doesn't
I
matter.
can't. I can't remember. I think Pittsburgh's going to win that game. I think Dallas's offensive line being beat up, their defense being somewhat beat up. I think Pittsburgh's
Well,
going to win that game.
Parsons and Lawrence are out, aren't
They're
they?
both. They're both out.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I mean, Dallas might
So
be in trouble here.
Philadelphia, they're on a
Oh, they're
bye.
weird.
They're they're
Aren't
they're
Philly
they're
weird? They're a
they're on a
weird
bye.
team.
They're on a bye right now. Here's something, by the way. If you're a Philadelphia fan, I don't want to take any more time because
Yeah.
got lost shit I got to do. Um,
Philly should be running away with it.
Saquon Barkley has had a lot of wear and tear already this year. You used him a lot.
Philly's on their bye already?
And they're on their bye week
Wow.
already.
Wow.
And then you've got Washington, who I think is playing over its head, and we should have beaten them. So I think they're going to come. The longer any of those teams lose, the more they lose, the more even if the Giants lose, the more you're stuck almost, if you're Dayball, of keeping the.
I know.
I would, but here's what
you're
I think.
Right. You're right.
But here's what I think is going to happen. I want them to win, and I hope I'm wrong on Monday.
Yeah.
I think they're going to lose, and I have a weird feeling we're going to get blown out. I don't think the offense is going to – I think it's going to struggle, and I think Jones is going to really look bad in this game. I just have a weird feeling I think he's going to take your mentality of what you were talking about if you were him. The problem is I just don't think he can do it. And I think he's going to turn the ball over because he's gotten away with a few. That loud crowd, and by the way, there are
no Malik Nabers,
but there are 2 ex-Giants on that team would love to show the Giants up.
Oh, I didn't realize Hankins was on that team.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I don't really count him because he didn't really play with Jones. But yeah. you've got Williams and you've got Love. Both of those guys would love to show the Giants up.
You're going to hear it from Giants fans. We never should have let Leonard. No, the Leonard Williams trade was the right trade to make at that time. I saw that this week, and I'm like, again, people. Well, and I know you got to go. One thing that's driving me nuts right now are Giants fans, and this started a few years ago, are Giants fans pining for players that were here during losing seasons. It's driving me nuts. So it's gotten so bad with the Giants now that instead of going, oh, I wish we had kept, because they can't because too much time has passed. I wish we had kept guys from the Super Bowl teams. Yeah. They're pining for guys that were here when the Giants were like 5-11.
I know.
Stop.
It's bad.
No one around, very few people. Everybody thought that the Giants did a great job when they traded Leonard Williams for what they got. But given the contract, given his free agent status, given everything where the team was, they were like, holy crap. What a great move that was. No backsies, people. No, again, it's why some of the Evan Neal criticism bothers me. The same people bitching about him were like, "Yay!" So,
right? Yeah, exactly.
And Julian Love is a little bit of a different thing. So people were a little bit more mixed. If people remember when they let him go, he didn't play well at the end of the year, and he got toasted pretty badly by the Eagles.
Yeah, he clearly missed a ball that went right through his hands. It was horrifying.
And he had one interception. I think he had one interception that year. And again, he was a smart, versatile player that everybody kind of really liked to have as he was like a better version of Nick McLeod in the sense that you could kind of plug him into a number of different places.
Sure.
Nobody was going, oh, we got to re-sign him to,
Yeah.
So again, this is revisionism with some of this stuff. And again, our safeties are not our problem right now. So but that's the venting you're starting to seep into the Giants fan bases. They want to lash out at anything right now.
Yeah.
And it's driving me a little bit crazy. Just focus. We know what the issues are. It's the quarterback, guys. That's not mean that we don't need to get better at cornerback. We need another defensive tackle. The Giants knew that going into the draft. They talked about it. We know that. But everything would be different if we had a quarterback.
You can mask some of those things because of where the positions they play and where they play. You can mask some of those weaknesses. When the guy who touches the ball every offensive play is the weakness, you can't mask that. There's only so much you can do, and Dayball did it in 22. The problem is there's no going beyond that. We've seen it now. It's almost impossible. No one's falling for some of the tricks that we were doing before.
It's like the Slayton play that you keep talking about that he had to dive, okay? You want a quarterback in that situation that can make a money throw and then get the team into the end zone. And he didn't do it. Right. He didn't do it. And it happens time after time after time. And I'm one of those guys, I've said it for years. Stop blaming one person. It's not one person. I'm getting very close to saying right now it's one person. The bigger question is this, and we should probably, I'm going to wrap my comments up on this. We probably should have a weekly now status update discussion brief. Where do we think we are with Shane and Dable? Because what much of the rest of the season is going to be a status report on are they staying or are they going? So we're going to have so the problem is if they start losing badly here and the losses part piling up and that builds, they're in trouble. That's my
so line. So we'll wrap it up. Watch the game or don't watch the game. It's up to you. Hope for the best. Definitely hope. Yeah, I definitely hope that that Daniel Jones doesn't get hurt. I still want them to win. I just don't think they're going to. But on next week we'll follow up on Monday. We're gonna have Ryan Dunleavy will be with us. On Wednesday we've locked in to have Perry Williams, a former cornerback with the New York Giants, on with us. And BW is actually is going to give us next week a look ahead at the games and some of the prospects.
Is he coming on? Is he? Are we zooming him in?
We didn't. He was gonna give me a list and some write up of stuff. But I mean, I could always bring him on.
We should start bringing fans in.
The problem is next week, because next week we have the two guests. It makes it a little bit harder to do that. But yeah, we can certainly start looking at
the guy who drags the eagle. Come on, dragon.
Yeah, I don't know about that one. But so that being said, one last thing, it's a little self-serving, I guess, for all of us, but I know for you have a son in the military, I have a son in the military. I'm really hoping things in the world kind of calm down slightly. But for all of us who do have people in the military, let's keep positive thoughts for all of them, because the touchy situation out there right now.
Yeah, and I was going to say this at the very beginning, and I completely forgot. I'm glad you say this. For all those, and most of you probably can't hear this because you don't have power, but everybody in Western North Carolina and Eastern Tennessee and Georgia, the images coming out of there. And I don't think the press is doing a very good job of reporting the true status on the ground, are just heartbreaking and devastating. And the death toll is going to be way higher than they're reporting. And our hearts go out for you. And I'm doing a donation campaign right now on BBI. I would actually prefer people out there on tight budgets to give money to relief agencies out there for that than give your money to me. I would appreciate it to keep the site going, but right now this is football and we're talking about life and death on the ground in that part of the country, and it's bad. So keep your prayers and thoughts for those people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because families, we're talking about little children and elderly and everyone in between. It's bad.
Yeah, I got some friends in that area, and we're not that far from there either. And the supplies have been going up. I'll put a link. I think I can find the one to the American Red Cross and a couple others. I'll put it there, but do whatever you feel necessary. But it'll be in the description. So, all right. Yeah. Well, good luck this weekend.
But do we make our predictions? Did you say what you?
I think they're going to get blown out. I think I'm going to go with. I think this is going to be one of the few games where they give up a lot of points. I think it's going to be something like 34-13.
It's been a house of horrors for the Giants, except there was that one game a few years ago where we blew them out there. It was like 42 to something. Wasn't that Eli's? Must have been Eli's.
That was was that
there was one game where it was like we just destroyed them. It was like 42-7 or something like that. But
yeah,
it's a house of horrors for us. We can't score. So, I think we'll score 9 points and they'll probably score because our offense won't move the ball. The defense will get tired and they'll end up scoring 30. So I'm going to say 30-9. I hope
you're going 39. You're going 39. I'm going 34-13. If we blow them out, we're going to have to predict the Giants get blown out every game going forward.
Oh yeah, no, I don't have a problem. I'm very superstitious. I always thought you always said what great guests could we get? You know who I'd love to get? We'd never get him, but I'd love to get Bill Parcells.
Oh, I've tried to reach out. I can't seem to find any in-way there.
Well, one of the reasons I'd love to talk to him is he is one of the reasons why I'm as superstitious as I am about football, because he was the most superstitious guy in football that I ever knew.
Yes. Yep. Absolutely. So
whatever.
All right. Whew.
Yeah.
It's another game, please. Let's hope for the best. But like, subscribe, I appreciate it. Check out the Cy video from Monday night, the review we did of the Cowboy game. Cy was great. Looked at 25 quarterbacks, so I thought that was really nice. And
one last thing. So everyone sees this hat, BBI. I wanted to shout out. This is Ed and FWB, a poster on BBI. If you note the hat, he had these made up years ago for the guys that went to Albany, the BBI'ers. Nice. And the great thing about these hats are on the hats on the back are the handles of each person. So mine says Eric from BBI, and
nice.
And on the side is the state, the logo of the state that you're from. So wow. It's very a really cool hat. So
that's nice.
The reason I'm bringing this up is because he sent me this week, and he sent a donation. He sent this picture, and I want to say, Ed, I still have the hat, and thanks.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. All right, folks. Well, I appreciate it. I got a kid I got to go pick up. So like, subscribe, and we will catch you again next week.